What should you do when markets sell off? When the stock market is going crazy, things look really bad, you're seeing a bunch of red in your portfolio. What should you do? We're going to break that all down today. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like today's content, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that you can keep getting content just like this. And of course, if you need help with your own financial plan, reach out to us at www.modernwealth.com. That's modern spelled with no vowels, wealth.com. We'd love to help you out. So I wanted to make this video not for any particular reason, right? It just so happens that as of the recording of this, markets are selling off a little bit, but I really think this should be a timeless episode, because the reality is that markets sell off all the time. And despite everything that we know about the long-term performance of markets, people still get really, really uncomfortable with the idea of market selling off and their portfolio losing money. So I wanted to make this episode today to break down what exactly you should do during these times so that you can not only get through them, but hopefully optimize your time when markets sell off. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. I'm going to give you a couple different tips and strategies that should hopefully help you out when markets sell off. And the first tip that I want to provide to you is that you need to understand that it's normal. Stock market corrections of 10% or more, depending on what study you look at, generally happen every 12 to 18 months, right? A 10% correction, that's pretty sizable, right? So think about it this way. A bear market is when the market falls more than 20%. Right? That's like 2008 financial crisis level or like COVID sell-off type level, right? I mean, those are kind of black swan type of sell-offs. But anything higher than that, right? A 10% or more correction between that 10 and 20% range, that generally happens every 12 to 18 months. So it's relatively frequent that you will encounter a period of time when markets sell off like that. And in addition to that, 5% corrections, right? So 5% corrections. And as of the recording of this video, it just so happens that we are in kind of a 5% correction. That generally happens every 3.5 months. And despite it happening so frequently, right? 3.5 months, that's pretty frequent for a 5% correction to happen. Despite that, you see the media freaking out. You see, people panicking about markets selling off, when in reality, it's normal. It's healthy. These corrections really prevent bubbles from forming in the stock market and are, quite frankly, necessary for sustainable long-term growth. So get used to them. They're healthy. They're going to happen. And it's just part of investing in the stock market. Second thing that I want you to keep in mind is that I want you to understand that because it's normal, you should probably stay the course with your investment plan. Now, I mentioned corrections happen roughly, depending on what study you look at, every 12 to 18 months. And when these corrections happen, it usually takes the market roughly 4 months to get out of that hole and recover. 4 months. That can feel like an eternity for some people, right? Imagine an entire summer, let's say, an entire summer of logging in, checking your portfolio, and it's down, and it's just in the gutter, and it doesn't look very good, right? That can feel like an eternity. And sometimes these recoveries might take longer. Sometimes they're shorter. We don't know. And because we don't know how long that recovery will be, if you sell while the market is in that recovery mode, right? While it's down, if you sell out at abandoned ship, you have now made those losses permanent. I've mentioned in other videos why I'm not necessarily a huge fan of people investing in individual stocks. And the reason for it is that they don't have any sort of exit strategy, right? They log into their account, they see all this green, all these unrealized gains, and they just stare at it and they never lock in any profit. Well, it's similar concept here, but it's kind of the opposite, right? Instead of locking in a profit, right? I don't want you to lock in a loss. I want you to fundamentally understand that is that the losses that you see in the portfolio during this time, they're temporary, right? Over the long term, if you write it out, when you log in and see all that red, hopefully you see your portfolio start to turn green because you have rode things out and have made it past that recovery period. So again, remember, losses are only permanent if you sell. If you wait it out, they can be only temporary. So now that we've got out of the way some kind of high level, like fundamental concepts that you should keep in mind, let's talk about some tactical things that you should keep in mind during market corrections that could potentially help you make more money during these periods of time. So number one, take advantage of tax loss harvesting in taxable brokerage accounts. There are studies that show that if you tax loss harvest, that it can potentially add, a percent or two to the overall return of your portfolio. But the thing is with tax loss harvesting is that if we are in a period, let's say where markets have just gone up and up and up, right? A lot of people's portfolios may not have a lot of losses to necessarily harvest that they can use to offset other gains and even reduce their overall taxable income. But during these corrections, when markets are down, and now that there's these temporary losses, this could be a period to actually harvest those losses, lock them in for tax purposes, and then, of course, immediately reinvest the proceeds so that you ride that recovery up. Remember, I want to make it very crystal clear. I'm not saying sell to incur a loss and just sit out of the market, right? That would be dumb, right? That would be making your losses permanent. But if you're smart about it and you strategically tax loss harvest, lock in those losses, stuff them in your back pocket to offset future gains and reduce your taxable income, and then immediately reinvest, that's where you can have your cake and eat it too. Lock in those losses, and on top of that, write up a market recovery. And again, if you're not familiar with tax loss harvesting, we did an entire episode on that. I'll be sure to include the link in the description of this one. Next thing that you could potentially do is, of course, buy the dip. You can actually take advantage of the fact that, let's say, a total market index is at a more discounted valuation as a whole and is selling cheaper. So you can go ahead and buy while it's cheaper and take advantage of it. Now, I'm not saying completely abandon your investment plan, right? If your investment plan, let's just say for the sake of argument here, is a 60-40 split, right? 60% stocks, 40% bonds. I'm not saying that you should scrap that entire plan and go 100% stocks. But what I am potentially saying is that perhaps you should take this opportunity to rebalance, right? Rebalance the portfolio to take advantage of buying some of these discounted assets, right? With this type of allocation, in theory, maybe the bonds are valued higher and the stocks are valued less. So you can maybe trim from some of those bonds and add them to the stock side of the portfolio while the stock market is in correction mode. The other way you can go about it is maybe just do a slight tweak of the allocation. Nothing crazy, but let's say that, again, 60% stock, 40% bond allocation. Maybe you dial up your stock exposure to, let's say, 65% and dial down your bond portion down to 35% to take advantage of the discount that you are seeing in markets. The next tactical move that I love deploying when appropriate are tactical Roth conversions. So how this would work is, in my preferred method of doing it, is when markets are in a major sell-off. Let's say that things have sold off 13, 14% in markets. And let's say that you have a IRA with a bunch of stock ETFs in it. Well, during that period of time with those stocks ETFs that are down, what I would like to do is take perhaps the most beat up fund or asset class in there. Let's say it's a small cap ETF that's within that portfolio. Let's say that that thing is actually down worse than the overall market. Maybe it's down 25%. What I'll go ahead and do is take that fund itself while it's at a discount and shift it on over, convert it over to a Roth. And the idea here is that when markets recover, and this guy that was at a 25% sell-off recovers and bounces back and is hopefully up, guess what? We just got way more bang for our buck moving that guy over to a Roth. Since that fund was at a discounted valuation, the taxable income that we absorb on the conversion in it isn't as bad. And then once it's in the Roth and it recovers, it hopefully gives us a lot more, again, bang for our buck. So again, tactical Roth conversions during major market sell-offs, I am generally a huge fan of. Finally, if you don't have a financial plan, make one. And I know that might sound cliche, but I promise you this. I promise you, and please hear me out before your eyes glaze over about, oh, yeah, obviously I should have a financial plan. Hear me out here. It is so much easier to ride out a correction and be unfazed by it and be someone who gladly takes advantage of opportunities like buying the dip, doing Roth conversions, etc., when you have a financial plan in place. And the reason why is that when you have a financial plan, your portfolio, the investment plan that you ultimately create as part of that financial plan, has a lot more purpose. You understand the reason behind the investment plan because you know how it impacts your life financially. You know how that money is, when that money is going to be used. It's much easier to stay the course because you understand the reason behind it, when you're going to need that money, etc. If you are just flying blind without any sort of financial plan, investment strategy, whatever it is much harder to stay the course because there's no long-term plan or direction in place. Think of it this way, just from a non-financial perspective. Let's say that you started a new workout program, right? If you just started a new workout program for just for kicks and giggles, whatever it is, just some random program, it's going to be harder for you to stick to it without an overall fitness plan in place, right? You need to have fitness goals in order, right? Are you trying to gain muscle, lose weight, etc.? You need to have an overall diet plan in place. And then, of course, the exercises and routines that you do need to align with those goals and objectives. And if they do, it's going to be much easier for you to stick to that workout program, right? Whatever it is. It's the same concept here, the exact same concept. People that have a plan in their lives, people that have direction and see the vision in their life are more likely to stick to whatever that is. And it's the same thing with the investment portfolio and their overall financial plan. So guys, shameless plug here. But of course, if you don't have a financial plan, reach out to us at www.modernwealth.com. That's modern spelled with no vowels, wealth.com. I hope you guys found this helpful. Hang in there, and we'll talk real soon.